Ms. Ranjini Manian, Founder Chair, Chairwoman, Global Adjustment Foundation. Ms. Kalpana Mohan, Author, Entrepreneur. Kadhambari S. Viswanathan, Assistant Vice President, VIT. Ms. Sandhya Shekhar, Advisor, IT Advisory Council for Digital Transformation, State Bank of India. Ms. Hasan, Director, AH Positive Limited.
Dr. Ranjini Manian, the founder of Global Adjustments, which is India's premier relocation and cross-cultural services company. She has spent over 2 decades as an entrepreneur, cultural ambassador, author, and philanthropist, connecting global citizens to India. She serves on various advisory boards, including Apollo Hospitals. Ranjini has served on the Harvard Women's Leadership Board and authored several books, such as Doing Business in India for Dummies, Upworldly Mobile, Make It in India, and her latest book is Champion Woman Truths, a progressive journal. She currently serves as the founder chair of Global Adjustments Foundation, whose mission is to empower women and girls to live out their potential by providing them champion woman life leadership coaching. Global Adjustments Foundation has already touched 500,000 lives both in person and digitally. Participant groups include entrepreneurs, corporate professionals, government workforce, army, police, healthcare workers, faculty and college students. The foundation's goal is to reduce workforce gender gap, enabling women to contribute more to the GDP of the nation. Dr. Ranjini studied psychology and French literature from Bombay University and Sorbonne University in Paris. She holds an honorary doctorate, recognizing her leadership in promoting cultural understanding. We are proud to welcome Dr. Ranjini Manian to Global Tamil Startup Investors Summit.
Hello. The term seat at the table might seem simplistic one, but the impact it can create anything but simple. Having a seat at the table means you have a say in what's going to happen, what decisions are being made, and the decisions that are likely to affect you and the future, and more importantly, you. And that seat, be it for anyone, is not always going to be given. It has to be taken, and that's something this women in the panel have in common. Ranjini, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Janaki, Murugesh, the entire FETNA community. Welcome to today. After that spectacular speech by Sridhar Vembu sir, we're all quietly thinking what a great state we belong to. Thank you very much, Startup TN, for the public-private partnership, which makes complete sense in skilling our workforce and getting us ready for the future. We are here to talk about the topic, the interesting and exciting topic of women seeking a seat at the table. In the seat at the table topics on ellarum endha table endha seat appdinu engala topic pathiye kettanga. So we got a little confused. We thought, oh, maybe we need to explain this phrase. You know, it's an American phrase. Seat at the table comes from an iconic American poem where it says that anyone and everyone Is that a bell for me to stop or start? Start, okay. Anyone that has something to contribute, to share, to have a conversation, should have and should assert themselves with a seat at the table. Which table? The table that makes sense to have a conversation. And for us as women, we have always had a seat at the dining table, right? And the seat behind the dining table too. But we can do much more than that. So today it's about women in entrepreneurship, as well as women here on the panel who do so many things to contribute and make the world a better place. I hope that you can take away some stories from all of them, because there are very personal stories that people are going to share with you today about their success. Lot of us have already had a lot of mistakes we've made. Why should this audience create that same error, right? So we'll tell you the mistakes we made and you don't have to make those mistakes again. So let's start with the first round, asking, Anu, you can start telling us, you know, when you grabbed or you got a seat at the table, what were some takeaways that you are left with that you can share with this audience in your journey?
Happy to do that, Ranjini. Ellarkum vanakkam. So the thing is, there are some lessons in life நம்மளுக்கு திரும்பி வாழ்க்கை நம்மளுக்கு கற்றுக் கொடுக்கும். எனக்கு அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு லெசன் என்னன்னா, when someone says you're just starting out something, so you're going to start something, there'll be a lot of people willing to give you advice, and நிறைய பேர் வந்து உன்னால இது முடியும்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, நிறைய பேர் அது உன்னால முடியாதுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. And in 1996, when I started my first company, it was in Calcutta, and many people told me, you don't know anything, you don't know Calcutta, you don't know the language. Ami Bangla janina, ami ki gurbo. So I said, that's fine, I'll still start it, right? Despite them saying, don't do it, you won't be able to do it, I did it. We started with a 4-member team, which finally grew to a 130-member team company. Right? If I had listened to that person who said, you don't do it, can't do it, all these 130 stars would not have been born, right? And when I say stars, you think of the other stars, but I am talking about, like Sridhar Vembu sir said, sheer talent. And the same lesson was taught to me again in 2016, pre-COVID, when we were doing another startup. Unfortunately, that startup failed because of COVID. And I'm not ashamed to say that. We will talk about failure at a later stage. But appa kuda, it was supposed to be one of the world's, one of its kind platform for a medical condition. And I said, validated information kadakka matengudhu appadinu. So I said, we need to get doctors to give us videos and patient advocacy. So adanala kudukanum. And a lot of people said, doctors will not do it. They will want money. You won't have the money to do it. It's not possible. And I said, no, I think they will be able to do it. So I cold called. Nobody knew me. I got doctors in the US, UK, Europe willing to do this. And they said, this is a good reason. We would love to be the source for validated information. So the point is, people will tell you, you can't do it. Don't take their word for it. Try it. But there is also another thing. உங்களால முடியாது அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்கல்ல, and then அவங்க கரெக்டாக இருந்தாங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, keep those people close, because they seem to know the market, they seem to know the industry, and more importantly, they seem to know you. So these are the takeaways that I've had.
That's terrific. So clearly, Anu, you dropped FOPO, no time for fear of people's opinion. You've heard of this expression from Harvard, right? Fear of people's opinion, FOPO. So இன்னைக்கு அப்புறம் இந்த ஹாலில் none of us is allowed to keep fear of people's opinion. So young entrepreneurs and others here, can you just follow me with this action? You take the FOPO and you chuck it out. Fear of other people's opinion doesn't affect me at all, especially women entrepreneurs and women in the workforce. Would you agree? Sandhya, can you tell us your story next?
Absolutely. I think it's important to proceed with conviction, whatever you do. Thanks for that lovely story, I know. So, I'd like to share a little story too, but it's actually not about me. In one of the organizations that I worked for, there was this engineer called Mohit. One day, the managing director came to me and said, Sandhya, you know what, I think I'm going to ask Mohit to get another job. I put him in multiple departments, and he's fought with every boss, So I said, see, I knew that Mohit was a bit of a maverick, but I also knew him to be a brilliant engineer. So I said, look, why don't you send him across to me? Let me have a chat. So what I did was I put Mohit on one of the toughest assignments that was going on at that point in time. And one day I was having a meeting with some of my prospects from overseas. Mohit walks in and says, Sandhya, I need a server. So I say that, Mohit, I'm in the middle of some discussions. Can we speak about this later? So he goes away. He comes back 2 minutes later and he says, Sandhya, I really need a server, an additional one. So I tell him that, Mohit, right now we don't have the budgets for an additional server. Why don't we speak about this later? He goes back. 5 minutes later, I'm just warming up in the discussions with these important prospects. He walks back in again. And he says, Sandhya, I absolutely need an additional server. I look at him and say, Mohit, go jump, And guess what he did? There was an empty chair in the room. He climbs up on the chair and jumps and says, Sandhya, I've jumped, now give me my server. So I just burst out laughing and said, okay, Mohit, I'm going to work with you on this. And somehow we're going to get you that additional server. And he says, yay, and he does a jig and gets out of the room, This project went on to become a whopping success later on. But more importantly, friends, these prospects who were sitting with me said, you know what, we just love the work culture in this organization. And I think we're going to look forward to doing business with you. And till today, Mohit is in touch with me, the maverick engineer who we almost lost, So, the message I want to share with you is, I think all of us are very comfortable working as individuals. It's very easy. We are at liberty to do what we want, when we want, how we want to do it. We're not reporting to anybody, and that's the joy of being an entrepreneur. I think the challenge comes when we need to scale up. Every entrepreneur has to go through the journey of scaling up, and then, the onus is on us to be able to carry the people along with us, And that's a huge challenge. Over and over and over, the lesson that I have learned while handling projects globally is that in every technology or business strategy exercise that I'm doing, the technology piece is always the simplest piece to crack. The most complicated piece is the people dimension, And so for me, what gets me here is that awareness and sensitivity towards people and the desire to put collective success over personal glory, And that's what makes the journey so much more satisfying and liberating.
Wonderful. What a good story. We won't forget Mohit's jump for a long time. So I think the message here is, tech is great, it's an enabler, but do it with a human touch. What a beautiful message. Thank you, Sandhya. Kalpana, your story.
So I'm a writer, and being a writer is a very, very lonely job. And you're always told that an editor who edits a writer is a know-it-all, that he or she ultimately will lord over everything you write. So in my particular case, when I moved from freelancing into book writing, I was always afraid, and I was always alone, of course. But I had an incident where my editor, who was working very well with me at my publishing firm, suddenly decided while working on my manuscript that my book, which was just at about 57,000 words, that is really like a novella in our world, it's a very small book, decided that the last 4 chapters and this was a book, it was a memoir about the last 2 years with my father before he passed away. And my editor decided that the last four chapters were really not needed, that it really ended at chapter number 25. Now, my father, who the book was about, was not even close to death at that point. And I believed very, very strongly that the book had to continue my vision. My mission for the book was to see it through till the last day of my father's life on earth. And I decided to go up to the executive editor at my publishing firm because I could not work with my editor. And I wrote a letter to her, which was about some 3,000 words, convincing myself, but convincing my executive editor that these were the reasons why the book had to be published with every chapter in it intact. And believe it or not, this is something that people do not do in my profession. You don't go up the chain and try to get your voice to be heard. And I did get a response, and a few months later, the book was published the way I had envisioned it. So I think it's very, very important. The message for me is it's very important to not let somebody tell you what your vision must be. Thank you very much.
That's wonderful, and it will apply to every entrepreneur and every situation, because naysayers will say what they can, but you know your worth, and you just have to stick the guns and negotiate, as you wonderfully did with editors. That's great. Kadhambari, what's your take, please?
அவையோர் அனைவருக்கும் அன்பான வணக்கம். ஃபெட்னாவிடமிருந்து அழைப்புதல் வந்ததுன்னு எனக்கு ஆஃபீஸில் சொன்ன உடனே நான் சொன்ன பதில் என்னென்னா, எனக்கு வீசா எக்ஸ்பயர் ஆகிடுச்சு, என்னால் போக முடியாதுன்னுட்டு. அப்புறமா செக்ரட்டரி எடுத்து சொன்னாப்புல, இல்லை மேம் சென்னையில் தான் நடக்குதுன்னுட்டு. ஸோ சென்னையில் நடக்குதுன்னு சொன்ன உடனே அதுக்காகவே நான் வந்தேன். ஏன்னா எனக்கு ஃபெட்னா யூஎஸில் ஒரு 2 வாட்டி எனக்கு போய் அந்த விழாக்களை பார்க்கறதுக்கான வாய்ப்பு கிடைத்த பொழுது நான் ரொம்ப ஆச்சரியப்பட்டது என்னென்னா, அந்த ஊரில் இவ்வளோ வெல் ஆர்கனைஸ்டாக ஒரு தமிழ் ஈவெண்ட் நடத்துகிறாங்க. ஏன்னா இங்கே நீங்கள் தமிழ்ச்சங்கம் நான் தாத்தாவோட இருக்கிறனால நிறைய தமிழ்ச்சங்கம் போயிருக்கேன், ரொம்ப டிஸ்ஆர்கனைஸ்டாக இருக்கும். அதனாலே நிறைய இளைஞர்களுக்கும் நிறைய பேருக்கு அது போய் சேராது. ஆனால் அங்கே வந்து அக்ராஸ் டெமோக்ரஃபி ஒரு பெரிய ஈவெண்ட்டை எவ்ரி இயர் தே புல் இட் ஆஃப். And I am very happy and proud to welcome FETNA to Tamil Nadu. Thank you all of you for coming here. I see a lot of known faces, and thank you for all the wishes that you've given to me and my family. And this panel has come at the right moment. It is, we're talking about seat at the table. Now I think Tamil Nadu has gone a step ahead, and it has become voice at the table. Tamil Nadu officially has more women voters than men voters. So definitely, at least for that reason, the voice will be heard more, and there will be greater representation for women. You were talking about how you or you capture the seat at the table. In my case, it is quite different. It was kind of drilled into my head. So you have to come. Even if I didn't do, they would have dragged me and put me there. So that is a kind of to do with the upbringing that my family had. If I were to share that experience, that gave me the confidence. So I went and initiated a project outside of the geography. Like the VIT has traditionally been in the Tamil Nadu region. For the first time, when we opened and established a campus in North India at Bhopal, one thing that I've always thought was a reason for my success is that I am confident in what I do. That is because of the confidence that my parents and my family have in me, that I will execute it. That in turn gives the confidence in my team members to accept that as me as a leader. And because a lot of money is involved. So when that is there, if people don't have the confidence and trust in you as a leader or as your team leader, manager, or whatever role that you are playing in, you will not be able to gather the support and the momentum to go forward. So for me, always is you have to create the trust and confidence first in yourself and in the people surrounding you.
Wonderful. When you come from a heritage like yours, as a millennial, to break through and do what you did is very creditable. Thank you.
Sorry, Ranjini, I just want to step in a bit. So we've all shared some of our takeaways, and you made a statement which is that technology is an enabler. And ellarkum theriyum, the newer generation is much more comfortable with technology than our generation, right? But you are doing a lot of stuff, and I think you have a lot of takeaways that you can share. So I don't think you should get away with not speaking about it. So that's your turn now.
Okay, put me on the spot. Coffee with Anu pannale, idudhaan problem. Coffee with Anu. Actually, Anu, you're right. I was scared of technology. I was an entrepreneur working in foreign direct investors coming in. So Jeff Bezos varuvaru enga center la vandu avarukku veshti anga vastrallam potu I will explain what is retail behavior look like in Tamil Nadu when he was about to launch Kindle. Then I found so many other companies like that investing billions of dollars in India, and they had a mandate that they must have so many women in their teams. But either women CVs varade, நம்ம விஐடியில் சிவிஸ் கிடச்சிரும், அப்புறம் ஏதாவது லைஃப் ஸ்டேஜ் கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட் வந்துட்டு காலேஜ் எஜுகேஷனோட போயிடுவாங்க. தே won't stay the course in education, in career workforce. So I found that we have to help our women self-transform. The government is already doing a lot, education is already doing a lot, but what are women doing to stay the course? That's what I found was needed, Radha. I call her Radha because her name is Anuradha, so she's Radha at home. So it is a question of what can you take with tech and enable it for women. We do workshops, first of all, to tell women stay the course, believe in yourself, set goals, and we've done that for 500,000 women. But to stay the course after, women could forget. So we have a wonderful app now, Champion Woman app. You'll recognize the voice in the app because it's many times Anu Hasan's voice. And we give 2-minute nugget videos where women just commuting or doing something can get a quick trigger of exactly these life lessons that Sandhya and Kalpana and Kadhambari and Anu and so many other women mentors are sharing in little nuggets. And that's how we've been able to scale what we do with Tech and Touch. Thank you for that opportunity. So let's go to round 2. Round 2, I wanted to ask you, maybe I'll start with you. Yes, since, there is this new phrase after COVID called imposter syndrome. That is, so many women feel, I'm not really very good. Maybe they'll find out that I'm a fake and I won't be able to keep my job. இப்படிலாம் ஒரு டவுட் வருது. உங்களுக்கு எப்போது imposter syndrome இருந்திருக்கா and how have you overcome it?
எப்போ பார்த்தாலும் இருக்கும் அது. And the thing is, when you're someone like me, especially for me, I explore a lot, right? So I go to a lot of areas. So therefore, I am a jack of all trades, master of none. Adanala, that danger of being exposed, of not being good enough in that area is very high. In every area I step into. If I go into acting, we've got Jambavans in our family. We go to directing, the Jambavans. We go to writing, there are huge authors. I go to anything. I go into a startup, then we've got the Sridhar Vembus of the world. Everybody is better, right? Let's accept that. It is a fact. People will be better than you. So that's the first thing that I learned. And then when I feel, oh, maybe I'm not good enough and people find out that I'm a fraud, I am a little analytical about it. நான் என்ன நினைப்பேன்னா, 2 sources தானே இருக்கு. ஒன்று வந்து என்னை சுற்றி இருக்கிறவங்க they somehow making me feel inadequate. ஸோ அவங்க சொல்கிறத வந்து நான் பார்த்துட்டு அவங்க சொல்கிறதுல ட்ரூத் இருக்கா, ஃபேக்டாக ஒப்பீனியனாக இருந்தால் அது லோவஸ்ட் ஃபார்ம் ஆஃப் இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ், வேண்டாம் நம்மளுக்கு, ஃபேக்டான்னு பார்ப்போம். அந்த ஃபேக்ட் இருந்துச்சுன்னா அதில் நான் என்னால் இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ண முடியுமான்னு பார்ப்பேன். என்னால் இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ண முடிஞ்சிச்சுன்னா கிரேட். இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ண முடியலன்னா இட்ஸ் நாட் அ கொஸ்டின் ஆஃப் மீ நாட் பீயிங் குட் இனஃப், they are not being good enough to be in my life. So that takes care of that angle. The other is your own thing. So when you are telling yourself that you are not good enough, I think you have to be a bit more confident of your capabilities and say that no, in these things I have done all this. So keeping a journal and saying இதெல்லாம் நான் பண்ணியிருக்கேன்னு எழுதி அப்பப்போ பார்க்குறதும் நல்ல விஷயம்தான். And because sometimes we forget, நம்ம humility, அதாவது அவையடக்கம் இருக்கணும்னு சொல்லி கற்றுக் கொடுத்து நம்ம ரொம்ப அடங்கி போயிடுறோம். அதுவும் தேவையில்லை. So that is one thing that helps. So these are the 2 things that help me when it comes to dealing with imposter syndrome.
Fantastic. So you're going to do this one more exercise which we teach in Champion Woman. Put your right hand out, everybody, and then turn it to your shoulder and just pat yourself and say, Sabash Ranjini. Every day in the mirror, look at yourself and praise yourself. Women leave workforces because they don't feel valued. Why should somebody else value you? You pat yourself and do a self-motivation pat, as you've beautifully explained. Kadhambari, I have a quick question. As a millennial in leadership, what is one tip you can share?
So exactly the point she was talking about, the criticism and everything that you get is now amplified, it's quantified, it's collated, it is there for everyone to see. And this affects women more. It is scientifically proven, it affects women more, probably because historically and evolutionarily speaking, women tend to please others. So obviously we take criticism more to the heart. and this fear of missing out, anxiety, stress, all these are not synonyms that you would like to put with a leader. So any young woman, especially I would say not even the millennial, the Gen Z generation that is overexposed to social media, or those who have grown with social media as a structural part of their founding years, will definitely encounter the problems of anxiety and getting opinion from others, or publicizing everything without a demarcation of what needs to be kept private and public. This will definitely affect you as a leader, because these qualities are viral qualities. So viral qualities are there to just stay for maximum, even for corona it is only 3 weeks. So if you have to go for a longer run, you need immunity. So that kind of perseverance and skill set is what these generation of students might lack. So we don't know, because these students are just in late phase of school or in their early years of college, and from what we see, generally there is a trend of social pressure as to what others might think about me. When you take that itself, you will not do anything challenging, and you will not want to venture out of comfort zone. You will get into a herd mentality. Right. You cannot create or, you can't do something path breaking, because you want to go into the path that everybody goes. So this will be a serious problem, especially for women leaders of say 2030, 2040.
Right, great. So listen, I'm just going to quickly change this with one last question to the panelists, because we are running short of time. I'm going to ask Sandhya to say the first answer, Kalpana next, Kadhambari and Anu last. What do you do for emotional well-being? Because the world outside will be manageable only if your world inside is silent and strong. We believe in mindfulness as part of the core. So can you tell me what's your secret for emotional well-being? And then each of you.
Okay, so with your permission, Ranjini, I'm going to do a poll. Can all the women here put up their hands? Oh, okay, it's just about 20% of the audience. Need to see more. Okay, the good news is, I think as women, we are inherently a lot more emotionally resilient than our wonderful counterparts, the men. So that's the good news. The not so good news is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of a solution to this. And I'll share with you what worked for me. What worked for me is a clear prioritization of what is number one and non-negotiable in your scheme of things, okay. And I'm going to tell you something counterintuitive. You might think a professionally successful woman has to put profession on top. No, for me, I put family on top. Unless my family is happy, I don't have the mind space to focus on work, because that's the way I look at things. And once you have cleared up mind space, I think you can do wonders at the workplace. So it's a question of each of us trying to figure out how to prioritize and how to go after it.
Fabulous. Prioritize and put your family on top. Great.
Not necessarily,
when
if that's what works for you.
Great.
So in continuation of that, I want to say, to feel really good, I give myself projects. I don't worry about what the outside world is doing in the world of writing. For instance, every week I read a book and I write about it. And, I don't care about the audience either. Ever so slowly, I have more and more subscribers, and I feed off of that. And so I think setting goals for yourself and just also setting larger goals for the year, as well as setting personal growth goals. Like this year, for the last 6 months, I've been taught the Bhagavad Gita. So for me, I think it's mostly about setting my own personal goals and achieving them.
Fantastic. That keeps you emotionally strong. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I think the key right now is to keep technology under control. So how you operate and how you work with technology and how much space you're going to give technology in your life is what would matter if you want to keep your emotional well-being.
Very well said. Very important point. Thank you, Kadhambari.
So emotional resilience, I'll just say in one line. When someone praises you, take it to your heart. When someone criticizes you, take it to your head. That's it.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Ranjini. When we curated this panel, we had women in mind, saying that seat at the table, what it means to us. But what an incredible bunch of people here. It's just not for women. Each and every one of the audience here, lots of takeaways from this, that whether it is collaboration or like building confidence or like, taking the seat at the table. So I'm sure this is a treat, like for everybody enjoyed this. Thank you, Ranjini and fellow panelists. And it's an incredible session. And I would like to honor you with this small gift from Fetna.
தொடர்ந்து why and how of co-creation என்கிற நிகழ்வு தொடங்க இருக்கிறது.